Hi, I'm Pat Lloyd, local CFP and CPA, and I'm here with Jeff Craven, an attorney, and we're here today to talk to you a little bit about estate planning.
So, a lot of people have probably heard of estate planning. Certainly, people know what a will is, and some people have trusts. And particularly with trusts, a lot of people go to a lawyer and they'll get one set up, and they think they're done. And it really isn't that way. And it's a lifelong process because unless you do the trust the day before you die, things are going to change. And so you need to be mindful of that. When you set up a trust and your kids are little, and you've got a person you've assigned who's going to take care of the trust for them until they're of age, and now they're 20 something and they're out on their own. Maybe they don't need that person anymore. Maybe you don't get along with that person anymore. There are lots of reasons to kind of regularly look at what you've been doing with your trust, or what's been going on in your lives and what changes you need to make. And one of the biggest problems that we see is with a lot of lawyers is they'll create the trust for you, but they never help you fund it. And a trust that isn't funded, it may as well not have been created at all.
I see that all the time with clients coming in to see me that have gotten trust done in the past. They just, they think they're done when they sign that document, but they don't realize you've got to transfer assets into that trust. Otherwise, it's just a nice piece of paper that really doesn't do anything for you.
And it's not really a complicated process. It's just, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's liability issues or just lack of knowledge, but a lot of lawyers don't, not only do they not actually do the efforts to actually fund the trust, they don't even really explain to the client how that's supposed to happen. Because a lot of the stuff the client can do on their own as time goes on. You don't always have to go to the lawyer to do everything with your trust. There are times when it's a good idea to check in. I would suggest you do it at least annually. But there, even leaving aside the failure to fund a trust, and the one thing I will say in closing on that, just so you have a concept of it, if you fail to fund the trust, you might have a will. And if you have a will, because usually a trust is put together with a will, then you've got to go and actually probate the will. And a whole big part of the reason why people form trusts in the first place, so they don't have to go through probate. They don't have to go through this long court proceeding that reduces the value of their estate, and it costs their family members time and aggravation.
And makes everything public.
And makes everything public, sure. Yeah. If for some reason you created a trust that didn't have a will, then God help you, because now you're in intestate succession, and you've completely undermined the whole purpose of what you set out to do in the first place. Leaving all of that aside, the other thing that you should do relative to the reason why you want to meet with your attorney and your accountant to talk about your trust is the tax laws are changing. And as many of you know, right now we've got a brand new administration, and usually that's a big time, especially when you've got a president and Congress, both sides of Congress, that are all on this kind of the same side of the political spectrum, and they're wanting to implement all the changes they've been dying to do for the last several years, and that could have a huge impact on what happens in your trust. Things like the step up in basis could go away, or
estate tax limits.
And that's a big one for your estate planning. So it makes sense to check in and to make a plan to address these problems, and to be proactive about it, to think a little bit ahead and say, what are we going to be doing over the course of the next year, and what can we do to make sure that this plan that we spent so much time and effort to put together actually does what we want it and need it to do.
Yeah, I think things are definitely getting a lot more complicated, and there's a lot of changes coming. So even if you have a trust or wills done, now's the time to come meet with Jeff and get him to review what you have in place and make sure that it's still going to continue to work the way you thought it was going to when you set it up, given all the changes in a tax environment that are coming down the pike.